Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Favorite Guitar Solos. Today in the co-captain's chair, once again, former Megadeth guitar shredder, Mr. Jeff Young. What's going on, Jeff? We're talking Schenker today.
We are, and I come in peace.
He always comes in peace.
Yeah.
So,
top of the Temple of Rock, and take you to our leader.
That's right. That's right. So, I started this favorite guitar solo show a few weeks back, and Jeff and I talk quite often. And I said, well, you got to have one of the best guitarists on the planet on this show to work some of these with me. And he's like, when are you doing Schenker? I'm like, that's going to be the first. So, we've already done. We've done Blackmore, we've done Kossoff, we've done a few, but I wanted to get Jeff on for one of his favorites and mine. And the German flying V wielding virtuoso. In fact, I see a flying V right behind you, and that looks like one of Michael's, one of the ones he used to use back in the old days, right before he switched over to Dean. That's an actual Gibson right there.
Yeah, I call that the I mugged Michael Schenker flying V. Right?
That's why, because you got his guitar, now he's playing Dean's, right? So,
Well, we got Dean's around here.
Yes, I know.
Right over there.
That's right. That's right. So I've asked Jeff and myself to pick out our 10 favorite solos from Michael Schenker. It can be MSG, Michael Schenker Fest, UFO, Scorpions, anything he's worked on. It can be studio albums or live. And I will say this was an almost impossible task because, I mean, has this guy ever played a boring guitar solo or a bad guitar solo? I don't think so. He's got so many great ones. And then it's like, well, do you like the live ones better than the studio ones? It's like, but I think I got a good list, I think. I know Jeff's got a killer list, and I think he was telling me this morning that he had to whittle it down for like 50. Huh?
Subtitled this show, The Mission Impossible Top 10 Solos of Michael Schenker show, because this was brutal, right?
It was really brutal. Totally.
And on any given day, we could come back tomorrow and give you another 10, and the day after give you another 10. And so for me, the order and...
Yeah, I mean, I know my number one is my absolute favorite, but all the other ones can just kind of like flip-flop at any given time. And I could be like, oh, crap, I forgot that one. I forgot that one. So there's just so many. I mean, this guy is just like the king of tasty guitar solos. And I see a prop. I see a prop.
Pardon me for jumping up, but it was hanging on the wall just right there. We have a little time for a little show and tell here today.
There we go. Perfect. Glare, go away. There we go. Yeah, that's classic. So that's what, from like 77, 78, something like that. Love it.
That's the man.
Love it.
His epic glory.
Yeah. Love it.
I have it right there just as a constant reminder, because we discover music, sometimes out of order.
Yeah.
And I remember like some of the first 45s, discovering Steve Howe from Yes with the Roundabout 45, and Black Dog got heavy into Jimmy Page, just that killer rhythm guitar riff. But once me and my buddies landed on Lights Out, and also went back and got some of the previous albums before, all bets were off, and Schenker became, like, he was, I think, my first big guitar hero. Someone I sat there and wanted to emulate and copy his solos, and still listen to just as much today as I did back then. And that's a sign of a timeless player for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he was a game changer. Same with me. And yeah, Lights Out was the first album I ever bought. And that was it. That was it. I was a fan for life, and still to this day. And that was late 70s. I mean, it was a long time ago. So as always, I'm going to let Jeff kick us off with his first choice. Like I said, we got 10. We're going to go from 10 to 1, but I wouldn't get too hung up on the order of these, because to me, it's just a matter of assembling a list of some of my favorites. I know my number one is my favorite out of all of them, but all of these are just absolutely great. And then I'm sure we'll have a few honorable mentions at the end, right? So we'll throw those out there then. So go ahead. What do you got for now? I'm curious to see what you got here.
Starting at number 10, played this, I think, last week on the show, from the Schenker Pattison Summit album. When Mike Varney came on Music Without Boundaries radio show, we were talking about a lot of the Shrapnel era artists. And of course, he worked with Schenker and did a couple albums with him, including this one. And he's like, Jeff, have you heard? He was just gushing over the solo to Wider Shade of Pale. And it's just a sweet, clear, unfettered solo outing from the maestro. And his vibrato and his excellent use of the wah-wah pedal is on full display on this tune. And he's all over filling up the holes. And it's a beautiful reimagining of that tune. So number 10, Schenker Pattison Summit, Wider Shade of Pale.
There you go. And what he's actually doing on there is he's recreating the organ solo, right? And just doing a fantastic job on that. Fantastic. That's a great choice. That's a really good out of the box choice. I love it. I love it. I think a lot of mine are going to be kind of in the box, but you know, it's all right. My number 10, I'm going to go to the Michael Schenker Group album, the debut solo album, for a little Cry for the Nations. I think a song that kind of gives a little bit of everything that was so great about Michael. You know, you got the kind of real melodic sense. You got the little bluesy feel. You got those real tasty, quick runs. And he just kind of takes you through this little, like about 40-second journey right during this song. And what I love about like a lot of the old UFO stuff and the old MSG stuff is he would throw like all these cool little mini solos in throughout the song, do a nice longer one. And then at the end, he would hit you again. So it's almost like, you know, you get you coming, get you going, and Cry for the Nation is not only a great song, but a really, really tasty guitar solo. So that's my number 10. Back to you.
Coming in at number 9 on JY's list. From, it was 1974 when Michael Schenker made his first appearance on a UFO album entitled Phenomenon. And it was just that. And I'm going for the track, little surprising choice, Lipstick Traces, which it's an unexpected combination of like spaghetti Western, like Verby spaghetti Western, mixed with classical music. And that back and forth juxtaposition, it's just winning on this track. It's so unexpected. And I think ahead of its time. Early genius from the man right there.
Yep. Pretty much an unknown quantity at that time. You know? Great choice, Jeff. Great choice. My number 9, this might be a surprise to some people. It's a little different from him. I'm going to go to the Lights Out album for one of, I think, his more bluesier solos. It's a gorgeous song. I love the solo. Try Me. I mean, you know, how great is that solo? I remember like
pained me.
Huh?
Pained me not to put that on my list.
You know what? I took it out like twice and kept putting it back in. I mean, that's the, yeah. I mean, that's like the mark of a great solo. And it's just, it starts off slow. He just throws a couple, you know, like kind of tender notes in and a little quick flurry, but it's just so like, wow. And it's not your typical Schenker solo. And that's what I like about it. I think that's really different from him. And it just really fits in that more kind of melodic ballady song with a gentle piano and what have you. I think it's definitely like the underrated gem on this particular album. And it just complements all the other stuff that's on here. So I love Try Me solo. It's just fantastic. So I couldn't leave it out. Just couldn't do it. I was going to throw it back in my honorable mention. I'm like, no, what? It's got to go back in. It's got to go back in.
Can't blame you.
Yeah, right.
Number 8, Infinite. How about from 1975's Force It LP? was produced
Fawcett
by
album.
10 years after bassist, right? Leo Lyons. And it was the first time keyboards appeared on a UFO album, right?
Yep.
Which was also performed by Chick Churchill from 10 years after.
That's right.
So little known UFO fact from the Fawcett album. I'm going with Out on the Street.
Great. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. I mean, you could pick anything from this album.
the rhythm tone, before we even get to the solo, the rhythm tone is off the chain. It's amazing. Great interplay between the guitar and the piano on this for coming out of the gate, bringing that aspect to the band. Their stop and start arrangement style of the rhythms, especially how they set up under Michael's solos. And this is carried on in Scorpion songwriting style on the MSG stuff, this real staggered start and stop style of rhythm leaves a lot of power and airspace for the solos to really cut out. This guitar solo, if you pay attention to the rhythm underneath, how it sets up the solo is choice. And if you can find a Live in London 1976, because The Strangers in the Night is cool, but about 6 notes in, there's like a band out of tune note there. And the 76 video Live in London, the solo's got that perfect combination of melody and speed and just that stunning Schenker trademark vibrato, right? Killer.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. That's I've talked to many people who say that the Fawcett album might be the strongest UFO studio album with him in the band, like start to finish. You know, maybe Lights Out or Obsession might be a little bit more popular, have more of the, you know, more impactful songs, but I think Fawcett is just absolutely incredible.
Number 8.
Number 8. All right. So my number 8, I'm going to go back to that Michael Schenker Group debut for the last track on the album, Lost Horizons. I mean, that's like an extended solo, kind of like the rock bottom, but instead of kind of like at the middle, that's like the whole back half of the song. He's doing all the squealing, all the slow runs and all the speedy stuff, and just like, you know, lots of wah-wah, right? Half cocked, right? Like he always does. Just this song that just builds and builds and builds and builds in intensity. And I just absolutely love it. And for me, it's one of my favorites from this particular album, even though he's got a lot of great solos on here. And yeah, in fact, that was a late comer to my list. And I was like, oh, how can I leave Lost Horizons off this list? Can't do it. Just can't do it. So that's my number 8. Back to you for number 7.
I think the title alone says it all on this one. From MSG2, both their albums, just Michael Schenker Group for his 2 solo albums. But this was the 79 album, Attack of the Mad Axeman. First of all, the intro harmonies that set up that kind of diabolical bluesy riff that Schenker has the genius to get away with just the whole verse progression and lyrical content. And then at 2:52 into the track, Schenker cuts loose like Jack the Ripper with the tasty, shreddy licks galore. And I'm talking about the studio version, but also live One Night at Budokan.
Oh, the Budokan version is awesome. Well. Yeah, yeah.
Stuns the unsuspecting bystanders.
Yep. Yeah, that's like he had to throw that song on that album, right? It's like, all right, I need a song that's just basically a vehicle for me to go berserk. And he does. And it's actually a pretty cool song, though. But yeah, that solo is great.
Everything in that solo.
All yep.
Stuff.
Yep.
It's really because he takes the whole end, and again, the riff that's going under the solo, the very tribal, it sets up his kind of Teutonic German soloing so perfectly.
Yeah, good stuff. And every time you see him live, he plays it exactly the same, note for note to this day. That's the one thing about Schenker that I always loved. It's
killer.
like, it's amazing. And he recreates all these, and you know, he's one of those guys where you listen to the studio albums and you know he spent a lot of time perfecting these solos. They had to be absolutely perfect, fitting those songs note for note. And he's not like, and I love him, but he's not like Ritchie Blackmore, who plays the solos to his classic songs however the hell he wants to play them on that given evening, right? Schenker goes on stage every single night and recreates those solos note for note every night. And
he's the early example, the best example for me, and a pinnacle to this day of a player who combines that classical, orchestrated compositional approach with an off-the-cuff, bluesy, soulful approach. And he's always had that blend from day one.
yeah.
And it gives him a lot of horizon to play with. I mean, and he can, within one solo, he can traverse, you know, each of those textures brilliantly. And it's set up players like Randy Rhoads. You can hear so much Schenker and Randy Rhoads and players after, guilty as charged.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. All right, where are we at? Number 7 for me. All right, so the versions are great on the studio or on Strangers in the Night, but I'm going to go with Mother Mary. Either of these two. You know, Mother Mary is another great example of just how explosive that Michael Schenker can be. You know, it's just amazing stuff. And like I said, whether you love the studio version or the live version, they're both just completely amazing. And it's always great to hear him just kind of going off like that with that kind of like little classical bent in the midst of like these big, you know, riffy type songs, right? And it adds that kind of that virtuoso flair in there. So yeah, Mother Mary, number 7 for me.
Coming in at number 6 in our top 10 countdown, Michael Schenker, Solos Beyond Belief, Bijou Pleasurette, from the first Michael Schenker group album. Let me hold him up. I think this could have been a killer cover, that shot.
I honestly, I would have liked that as the cover. Not. I mean, you know, the original cover is okay.
This should have been inside.
Yeah.
You know, but
that should have been the cover right there, because that, quite frankly, tells a better story, right?
That's what I'm talking about. But check it out. First of all, I play this song, at least I did when people still played out live. I opened my solo show with Megadeth, Into the Lungs of Hell, and I go straight into Bijou Pleasurette with looping and doing all the harmonies and stuff in my looper. That piece is, from playing it and figuring it out note for note, it's deceptively ingenious in its composition and performance. And besides the lush harmony lines, something again that Euro artists and South American artists tend to do more than American bands is that brilliant counterpoint. And when he's got the round going with the guitars, you know, doing the counterpoint to each other, and how they work together, and each guitar having to be so in tune and in time, doing harmony twin guitars in the bends, and to get all those bends when you do them in harmony perfectly in tune. It's not as easy as it sounds, right?
Of course not.
that song is just a little masterpiece. It's just a little masterpiece. And again, that interweaving counterpoint is on point. on that tune.
Yeah, good choice. That's a good choice. That's just a gorgeous piece of music right there. Gorgeous piece. All right, so my number 6, gonna go back to the Lights Out album for their epic song, "Love to Love." Killer. You got that, again, another tale of two solos, right? You got that really tender middle solo, right, supported by Paul Raymond's lovely piano work, and then he just absolutely goes off the charts towards the end of it. Like I said, tale of two solos. The guy can do the more laid back, melodic, tender style, but he can just crank it up a notch and go all out, go for the jugular like he does at the end of this solo. So I think that "Love to Love" for me might be one of the best examples of all that is Michael Schenker within a song in two different sections. So there you have it. My number 6.
Buddy, this album needs more love, people. So I implore you, I urge you to go check out the early masterpiece, No Heavy Petting. And the track I'm going to go with for my number 5 is "I'm a Loser." Amazing album cover, first off. But some of Schenker's best tones are on this record. And this song is an example of that. That broken, staggered, rhythmic thing is happening on this song. And that's great to solo over because it leaves a lot of airspace. And when the band is hitting the rhythm section, it's just creating, it's almost like an engine of a fine German car, right? It's a love drive, baby. That song has a real jam band feel to it, like kind of a 70s jam band feel to it. There's a Meatloaf kind of Springsteen style piano thing that's happening, especially towards the end, kind of Bat Out of Hell, Jim Steinman kind of vibe. And the cool thing about just when you listen to his playing on this album, aside from the tones and the endless fluidity, there's just a perfect balance between melodic and vicious. He's got that equilibrium happening, working equally well on the entire album. But "I'm a Loser" is a winner.
Yes, indeed. I dig it. And there's my "Strangers in the Night." Yeah, it's also on my. Well, I don't remember if it was on the original. God, I've had the expanded "Strangers in the Night" for so long now. I don't remember what was on what. Anyway, it's on the expanded edition. It's great on the live album too. It's just a great song is a great song, right? Yeah. All right, my number 5. Where is my album here? Hold on. Going to go to the Obsession album. I could have ranked this high. I think for me, this might be my favorite UFO song as far as like overall guitar solos go. It's "Pack It Up and Go" from Obsession. I mean, he's just like killing it all over this song. This song is just like guitar solo overload. He's playing fills all over the place throughout the song. His solo is great. He's doing lots of cool bends, some speedy runs, and just amazing. And he doesn't need this, like, no distortion. He's got a very dry sound, but just absolutely kills. And I think you mentioned this album was recorded using the pig nose, right? Didn't you? Is it this album? Was Lights Out? Lights Out. Okay, yeah.
I don't know if he was using it still on that.
But I don't know. I mean, the guitar tone is very similar on both albums, so who knows? But "Pack It Up and Go," great. Is the pig nose right there?
Pulling out the pig nose.
Yep.
Yeah, it's got a speaker out, so he ran it into his Marshall cab. They sound killer, and everybody remember Terry Kath from Chicago was the principal investor in the company.
Yep. Zappa played one for many years too. Yep. So yeah, "Pack It Up and Go," my number 5 pick. Back to you.
Number 4 on the list. And I'm going with the studio version because the version that appears on "Strangers in the Night" is also a studio version with the dubbed applause. Mother Mary And also the Kids off Strangers was done in the studio after the fact. Wasn't Nevison, whoever produced that album, was talking about that.
Yeah, yeah.
And Thin Lizzy on Live and Dangerous, Southbound. They
It's also
recorded that at
studio.
Soundcheck, right?
Yep. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So
So
this Kids and Mother Mary, yeah, both studio and sweetened up with live stuff just
yeah.
to round it out.
That being said, ah, peerless rhythm tone on this tune, on the studio version. It's out of hand. This is from Force It, from the Force It album again. And he's got the slow melodic blues phrasing where it's bluesy, but it's just like out of this world note choices that he makes when he plays bluesy. Very classy and elegant lines that he's playing. And very in tune harmony bends I was talking about before. This song's a great example of that. And then at 3:07 into the track, approximately, he does an insane ripping barrage of melody that's just off the charts. How fluid and unexpected it hits you. It's like when Benson is playing slow and melodic, and then he just takes off on this jagged tear. It's a great one.
Yep.
Mother Mary.
I love it. I love it. All right, my number 4. Maybe a bit of an odd choice for some, but I totally dig the song. I love the solo from Phenomenon, his first album with the band UFO, Queen of the Deep, all the way at the end of the album. Right, really cool song, kind of a heavy song, kind of a proggy song, and I love like at about what the midway point, the kind of the arrangement takes on kind of like a liquidy, like underwater type of sound to it, right? The kind of psychedelic sound, and then he comes in with this really long solo that I'm not sure what effects he's actually using, but it's just very, very cool sounding. Does some little fast and speedy runs on there, but a lot of kind of really cool like pickup scrapes and things like that, and throws all sorts of different things into the mix. And you got to remember at the time, what was he, like 18 years old, 19 years old, and just kind of like pulling out all the stops on this kind of very different song on this album. It's one of those solos that like makes the hair stand up in the back of your neck, because it's just like he's just doing all these kind of weird yet very cool things, showing off his talents, but yet not going too far off the deep end, I think. But it's a nice lengthy solo that gives all sorts of different hints of his style. So Queen of the Deep, my number 4.
Don't all his solos make the hair on the back of the neck?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
I know you love UFO Obsession, the album.
Yep.
From our friendly conversations offline. And I've got to go for number 3, Born to Lose, buddy. The solo is just poignant in its beauty. I don't know what better way to phrase it. The bluesy flourishes are just adore, you just adoring this. And it's like that kind of futuristic spacey blues that UFO did so well. And when they were interpreting blues-based riffs, they always took it to another world, pardon the pun. And Born to Lose would be a great example. I'm trying to go with a little bit deeper cuts than Rock Bottom off Strangers in the Night, the things that everyone would say, everyone's going to already know and love, the typical standards. So maybe this is a little bit more deep Schenker that would exhilarate some new listeners. UFO Obsession, Born to Lose.
All right, so my number 3, you've already mentioned, Watch the Attack of the Mad X-Men. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, yeah, that's...
Again, just the riff sets it up.
It totally does. I mean, that riff leading into it is just absolutely brilliant. And it's, you go to see Schenker live, it's one of the highlights. It's like you go to see Schenker live, you got to hear Attack of the Mad X-Men, you got to hear Rock Bottom. It's like, that's like, can't miss guitar playing right there. So yeah, you've said enough on that. I don't have much else to add. So that's my number 3.
Mm-hmm. Ready for number 2 with a drum
Absolutely.
roll? From this masterpiece again. I mean, so many albums, like there's not one song you want to jump over on this record. I got to go with Into the Arena.
Oh yeah.
It's like the very best of Schenker packaged like dynamite in one ever evolving instrumental opus. He does everything in there. And I want to point out some moments in the tune to focus in on it. 34 seconds in, he starts doing these like next level kind of Keith Richards, Chuck Berry double stops that he does just really with his own German Teutonic twist to it. Then at 47 seconds, it's one of his trademark things where he does this kind of 2-string rocking bends back and forth, and he'll go back and forth between either the high E and B string or the G and the E string, or sometimes the G and the B string. That's when he does that so often. That's one of his trademarks.
It is.
But the way he goes off into the next phrase, he turns it almost like quasi-atonal, almost like a Robert Fripp-esque kind of line, right out of this like real Keith Richards kind of thing. And then he's all of a sudden going Fripp on you. Stellar right there. And 127, it's the top of the second solo where he's doing just like old style blues, so the classic riff minus the bend that we all do on the second and third string, but he does it so fluidly, it sounds like Eddie Van Halen tapping, and he's playing this simultaneous legato riff that's just mind-blowing and so melodic with, again, that classical air to it. Beautiful at 127. At 256, they whip into this like classical finale that's very thematic. You could see the conductor up there. And then at the end, 354, the very last note, when they hit the last chord, he goes off on this barn-burning, blazing riff, just a flourish of notes that I sat in front of my turntable for like hours, like, what is that? And it's just over the last whole note that the band's holding, like concert ending, and he's just blistering, but so melodic. And that's the thing, you know, when people say you can't play fast and melodic at the same time.
Not if you're Michael Schenker, you can.
Any of the solos on these lists today that Pete and I are throwing out, because there's melody abounding, slow or fast.
Yep.
And
yeah, I think all those rules don't apply to this guy. Schenker, he's in a world to his own.
Yeah, it's the Into the Arena is just what it sounds like. It's the Gladiator's excursion of rhythm. His rhythms are killer. The soloing. I mean, a lot of guys write instrumentals and it comes off like jerking off. This comes off very well orchestrated and composed. Yeah. And with a spirit of abandon in the playing.
Yep. Well, it's like we talked about it earlier. I mean, he really puts a lot of thought into these things. I mean, the solo is like the mini song within the song.
He's very, very spiritual. If you read about how he approaches music and he doesn't listen to other music, he says, I'm sure I come in contact, but he's tried to go as much of his life as he can without getting outside influence so that he can be, and experiencing creativity from the inside out as opposed from the outside in.
Yeah.
I love reading his interviews because he gives you as a guitar player things to think about that you kind of hold with you forever. And you're always remembering those when you go to play a song. You know, what would Michael do?
Exactly. Good choice. All right. So my number 2, I'm going to go with the legendary title track to this bad boy right here. Little Lights Out in London, right? It's got some cool, like, bluesy runs and bends and things like that. And then just some of the things you were talking about before, just absolute trademark Schenkerisms. And I mean, this is just like a heavy driving song, and another one of those chilling guitar solos that, like, you listen to it, you watch him play it, and you're like, wow, that was impressive. But it's just so perfect within this song. I mean, could you imagine Lights Out without that solo? Can't. And then the solos at the end. I mean, again, I love the classic Schenker stuff where he throws in, you know, a bunch of fills throughout the song, the middle solo, and then he finishes out the song, you know, with just an even more impressive little burst. So that's my number 2.
We're at the number 1
We are.
spot, and I got to push that one up a notch, buddy. The legendary. I mean, we had this on 8-track. My buddy wasn't even a guitar player, and we blasted this in his car on 8-track. And notice this is the DJ promotional.
There you go. Look at
that. I got to go with Lights Out.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
I got to go with Lights Out for my number 1 choice. First of all, my first serious heavy band, we covered that song note for note. One of us took the one solo and I took the end solo, I believe. And those 2 solos have everything that a perfect guitar solo should have, right? Melody, speed, groove, the flow, and how the legato, more chordal, held out rhythm that he starts soloing over to. Then the rhythm halfway through his solo switches to the galloping, which Maiden and so many bands, you know, Metallica, Lights Out was the prototype for this galloping, raucous style of tune. And just that opening riff, down, that's like the Jaws of hard rock, man, right? It's the same interval of notes, Donna, E to F, same interval as Jaws. And just the way they lay it down, it's just, as soon as that riff comes in with the low bass line and then that high minor chordal progression, you're sold. And it sounds like a band called UFO when you hear that. And that album is just, for me, one of the most critical albums of my entire career, Lights Out. I love all the albums, but having to learn those solos note for note and how fast and fluid they are, and even on Strangers in the Night and other versions, that version on Lights Out, how he wailed through the pig nose, people. And the fade out, even as it's fading, one of the best fade out guitar solos, right up there with Randy Rhoads' Tonight from Diary of a Madman. How you just want to keep boosting the volume as it's fading out. Just to
he's still going. Yeah, he's still going off. You're like, no, don't go away.
Every morsel what Schenker's playing.
Yeah.
Lights Out all the way, people.
There you go. Well, see, that's the reason why I had to have Jeff on me with this show, because only Jeff could talk so eloquently about a guy that deserves to be talked, that his solos to be discussed eloquently. So that, yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. That's absolutely.
I do what I can, Pete.
Yeah, well, that's
auctioneer.
You need a pro guitar player talking about this stuff. I'm just a hack. You're the man. So yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, my number 1's kind of cliche. I went for the obvious one, but you know what? Damn it, it's my favorite solo. One of my favorite solos of all time. Gotta go to Strangers in the Night for Rock Bottom.
Rock Bottom.
I mean, it's awesome on here. It's legendary. What kills me is every interview you ever read from Michael, he hates the solo on Strangers in the Night. It's like, he's like, oh, that was taken from a bad night.
Just saying that to be contrarian.
I guess.
He knows it's killer. Come on.
I don't know how anybody could think that the solo is just bad. But anyway.
But I mean, if you see him even on this tour, he does it. He's burning it now.
Yeah.
It's so fluid.
Yeah. It's just crazy. And again, that's like the big attraction of the show. It's like, is Attack of the Mad Axemen's one of them, but everybody wants to see that, like, what, about 3 minutes worth of guitar solo in the middle of Rock Bottom. I mean, just unbelievable. And again, just pulling out all the stops. He gives you a little bit of everything of what he does on that Flying V. And it's so sweet. It's jaw-droppingly impressive, but it's so sweet and so melodic. It's just, man, and he makes it look easy. Makes it look easy. He's up there. I when I saw him the last time in New York City, I recorded the whole solo on my phone. I was, not too far from him. And he's got this big grin on his face. He knows everybody's watching, everybody's filming. He's like, yeah, I've been doing this for, 40 years. It's easy. It's like I could do it in my sleep. And I'm like,
And he hits all the main parts now, but he's doing some stuff with the sophistication of his melodic sense at this point. He's throwing off the cuff melodies out that are just jaw-dropping.
Yeah, absolutely.
Astounding.
So, Nina, I asked Mr. Jeff Young, do you have any honorable mentions?
Tallulah has a few.
I know Tallulah does. She's a big Schenker fan. She's told me so herself many times.
If I told you, man, a UFO just landed outside and dropped this creature off, you'd believe me, right? Look at that.
There you go.
If that's not an alien, I don't know what is.
Oh, she's such a doll, though. She's such a doll.
Honorable mentions, my friend.
Yeah.
This one, I almost put it at a tie for number one with Lights Out. And because it's an unaccompanied solo, it's the beginning opening solo from the Michael Schenker album. Didn't want to leave them out. Save Yourself.
Yeah.
People, if you were going to the reason I almost put it as a tie, because if someone had never heard Schenker, right? You give them Lights Out within the context of a song, and then you give them this a cappella solo to Save Yourself, and they got a new favorite guitar player for life right there.
Yeah, that's a great one. I forgot all about that one. Yeah, that is good.
Killer. Yeah. I wanted to give something off Sharks because that was his last album with UFO, and there's a bunch of cool stuff on there. Hawaii, I always play on the show, but Dead Man Walking is a different cool tune. And he's soloing, the rhythm progression that he's soloing over is identical to You Really Got Me by the Kinks. So like if you want to hear how Schenker would play over a progression like Eddie Van Halen would play over that, you go listen to Dead Man Walking. It's the same chord progression. Da, 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 da. And he plays a really, some wonderful phrasing on that. It's like out of the box. It sounds really off the cuff at the same time. Really cool solo on that. Go back and listen to that after Pete. Dead Man Walking, killer. How about, I had to do a tie at number 3 because they're both off the same album. Right? Let Sleeping Dogs Lie.
Oh, great one. Yeah, that's awesome.
And On and On.
Love On and On.
On and On's beautiful.
Yeah, it totally is. It totally is.
How about some honorable mention and love for Samurai? Very tribal groove.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, gave me some influence for the tribal beginning in Monsoon, with the jungle drums. And that's got some kind of 70s band jam vibes on that, Samurai. And from No Heavy Petting, again, this album, we're giving it the love today. On with the Action.
Oh, right. That's one of mine. That's him doing his Teutonic thing very nicely. Yep.
The clipboard never lies.
Yeah, I had on with the action too. I wanted to give some Assault Attack love. You just threw out Samurai. How about Desert Song? Great solo in Desert Song. You know what it is? I love the Assault Attack album. It might be my favorite Michael Schenker group album, but I think whether he tried to or not, the solos are shorter and really concise on that album, not like the longer ones that we get on the first two albums, and maybe not quite as memorable, but still amazing, and they perfectly fit the songs. But I think Desert Song from Assault Attack.
I got to jam that tune with Graham Bonnet. You know, right. I did. You've seen it,
I've seen it. I've seen it. Yep.
That was a bucket list moment.
Yep. Yep.
That's a fun tune to jam on. And besides the solo, there's some really cool offbeat harmonics that come in throughout the song in the intro and in the middle. They're really tricky to lay right in the pocket because they're a lot on the upbeat and the next one's on the downbeat. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Good choice, Mr. Pardo.
There you go. What else do I got here? My honorable mentions. How about a little Shoot?
I almost put that.
Yeah, I like the Strangers in the Night version a little bit better. That's awesome. I also have down Lonesome Crow, the final track on the first Scorpions album, Lonesome Crow. Michael Schenker, 15 years old. Again, he's not quite hitting his heights yet, but still throwing down some like cool, extended Leslie West type bluesy rock solo. And then I had to give a little bit of love to the Love Drive album, Scorpions Love Drive album, where Michael comes back and plays with
another piece of meat, buddy.
Well, that or Coast to Coast, man, either or. They're both great, right? And that's, Michael ripping it up next to his brother once again. So it's
the one lick and another piece of meat. Every one of us had to learn right after he says it's just another piece of meat. And she does the pentatonic ascending lick. It's Randy Rhoads was all over that, man.
Yeah, exactly. Classic stuff. So there you have it. Nice long discussion on some fantastic Michael Schenker guitar solos spanning, a good chunk of his career there. Some real drop dead classics, some stuff maybe you didn't expect, but I want to thank Mr. Jeff Young for coming on board here and talking some Flying V shenanigans, speaking of right there. Come on, Jeff, play us a little lick there.
It's in drop C tuning right now. There's what I want to tell you about the V is that when you listen to his tone, because we talked about his tone, when Gibson designed this guitar, they were trying to kind of compete with the Stratocaster because that looked a little more space modern. And they went really modern on this. What they didn't, I don't think, anticipate the design. They were trying to make a guitar that looked wicked cool, but what I don't think they planned on, and it's a happy offshoot and why I love it. And I will direct your listeners to go check out. Monsoon has this Flying V on all the rhythms, all the leads. My new single, In the Flesh, all the rhythms. This guitar, Slow Burn, is a Flying V. There's something about the mid-range, we call it the mid-range clack, that a Flying V gets that no other Gibson will get this, no other guitar has it. And because of the way, if you think about how when you pick, it's like a pebble dropping in a pond and a ripple of sound goes out. In the way the sound travels to these extreme low end, the bouts here, the low end, just when you crunch on a note, it just hits you in the chest, almost like a kick drum. So on a lick like Lights Out, and I will come back on your show. We were talking about doing a rig rundown and showing you all my guitars once I get recuperated from my bike accident. And we'll play the V and kind of hear in context what I'm talking about with the tone. As a matter of fact, for the Sea of Tranquility listeners, how about if I'm going to, on my SoundCloud, and I think it's SoundCloud/Jeff Young or Jeff Young Jams, Jeff Young Music, shouldn't be too hard to find. I'm going to post my brand new track that's in this odd tuning that this guitar is in right now. And so you can hear just with drums and bass and rhythm guitar, no solos, harmonies, you can just hear the tone of this guitar pure with, you know, 2 mics on it. So you can really hear why so many players love the sound of this V, because sometimes it's hard to notice with the vocals and the solos and everything going on. So I'll post that on my SoundCloud and hope folks will check that out.
Very cool. So as Jeff mentioned, he and I have been talking about having him come on the show for a full show all about Jeff Young, talking about his solo work, talking about his days in Megadeth, showing all his guitar gear, the guitars, the amps, the effects, all the stuff he's using these days. And I think that'll be some fascinating discussion. So look for that over the course of the next couple of weeks as Jeff is recouping from a little minor injury from a fall in his vehicle, right? So.
I just got hit by a car on my bike. I was in a crosswalk, believe it or not. Cell phones. He was on his cell phone and he spaced out and he let his foot off the brake and just rolled right over me. And I was churning underneath the front end of his Mercedes. And it didn't feel excellent, but we're on the slow rehab here.
Good. All right. Well, one day at a time, right? That's all you can do. All you can do. So remember to go check out all of Jeff's new singles. You want to just run them by again. So we got Monsoon, In the Flesh, Slow Burn, working on another one as we speak.
Wave Rider's coming, and another one called Fuoco by Roland Deans. He's a French composer that's going to be played on that nylon string guitar right there. And as a matter of fact, if people tune into the show tomorrow morning, Music Without Boundaries radio show is now on Wednesday mornings at 10:11 on the East Coast. That's New York, Florida, Dayton, Ohio, etc. 7:11 in the morning on the West Coast. We're giving away, thanks to H. Jimenez, who gave me this beautiful guitar. There's another one just like it in the closet in a gig bag with a cutaway. This company is amazing. I'm blown away with the sound of this guitar. And I can't say enough about this company, H. Jimenez. I'm giving away the Strat. Tune in to Music Without Boundaries tomorrow morning, jeffyoungjams.com, and we'll let you know how you can win this beauty.
Awesome. Sounds good. So make sure everybody tune in tomorrow morning, bright and early. All right. And listen to some great music. You want to give a hint at any kind of musical things that'll be happening on the show tomorrow?
Oh, I think tomorrow it's going to be like the ultimate, since we're new on Wednesday mornings, and I'm kind of used to doing the flow of a show at night when we start out with a certain pace. In the morning, it's a whole different feel.
Yeah.
Because people are just starting their days. So I think this is going to be music for mornings, right? Like some ultimate morning music. Maybe come in a little different. Usually we come out with some really fast, aggressive stuff. You know, some people at 7:11 in the morning, maybe we're going to give it a little different flow tomorrow and maybe get you on the show for a few minutes as well.
Sounds good.
Always like to have you on.
There you go.
A musical perspective, and we'll promote this show and get my listeners here to check out the Schenker show.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Sounds
Feel
like a
free
plan.
to come win this Strat.
Yes, indeed. I like that.
Enjoy the jams.
Yep. Very cool. All right. So all this great stuff you guys have to look forward to here. So visit us on the web as well at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Thanks a lot to Jeff Young for coming on and talking lots of Schenker. Jeff will be coming back in the weeks ahead for more favorite guitar solo episodes. I just have to kind of run a list by him and see which
Alan
ones
Holsworth.
I can. Yeah.
Gary Moore.
I think that can be arranged. Yes, absolutely.
Eddie Van Halen.
The list is enormous. The list is enormous. So stay tuned, everybody, and look forward to seeing Jeff back on the show, doing a kind of a gear rundown, talking music, stuff he's working on, stuff he worked on, history with Megadeth, all that kind of stuff. So that's coming up in the weeks ahead as well. We'll see you all real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.